we're setting our sights now on how can we get better every single year. Now it's going to be a goal to every year take off at least one school from low performing status and continue that march forward with improving academically the school system. The goal here is to be the best in the East, and there's no reason why we can't be.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Wayne County Chambers podcast, For the Record. We want to say a special thank you to our sponsors. Our title sponsor, Sport Durst of Goldsboro, our premier sponsor, Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company, our presenting sponsors, Professional Data Management, Goldsboro Builder Supply, and UNC Physicians Network, and our community sponsors, Butterball and the Housing Authority of the City of Goldsboro. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
Good day, sir. How are you?
Doing great. Good to see you, Scott.
So, Dr. Whichard, could you tell the world who you are? Just give us a little insight.
Sure. Well, I'm Marc Whichard. This is concluding my 25th year in education.
Oh, my God. You started when you were 12?
It started when I was 12, and it's been just game on ever since. But no, I started out teaching high school history and English at Tarboro High School in Edgecombe County. Shortly thereafter, I went to East Carolina, went back to East Carolina, and got my master's degree in school administration. And
is that where you went to East Carolina for your undergrad too?
Went there from undergrad, went there for all three of my degrees. Graduated in 99 with my bachelor's, graduated in 05 with my master's, and graduated in 17 with a doctoral degree. But was in Edgecombe County for roughly 20 years, had been an assistant principal. In Pitt County, I was there for 2 years as an elementary principal and assistant principal in Farmville at Sam Bundy. Worked in turnaround business, turnaround schools in Edgecombe County, turned around 2 of the low-performing schools there in the district. One, C.B. Martin Middle, was on the state's top 5 list of low-performing schools in the state. We turned around C.B. Martin in 1 year. Very proud of that work. You'll hear me say, I hope throughout the course of my career, it's always we. It's never about me. No person can do work singularly. It takes a group effort. But we had a great track record, great run in Edgecombe County. Shortly thereafter, I was, to thank me for my turnaround work of the middle school, I was given the task of turning around the high school. And we did that at Southwest Edgecombe High School. I was there for 4 years. Had a real strong run there, thoroughly enjoyed the work in the community, and then was promoted to Assistant Superintendent of HR and Legal Services for the district, and did work in that position for 4 years, and then was called into superintendent work, where I was superintendent in Whiteville City for 4 years, and that happened through just kind of things aligning just right in terms of how I ended up being in Whiteville. But it was a great run in Whiteville. We did a lot of modernization with facilities, worked with county government, county commissioners in increasing school funding. And, as you may or may not know, Columbus is one of the bottom 3 poorest counties in the state. And we dramatically increased school funding for the benefit of the community and improvement of the school capital infrastructures. And we improved the schools academically. I became superintendent in Whiteville in the first year of COVID hitting. So we had to do a lot of things really quick in terms of turnaround work, and very proud of the work that we did there, lasting legacy, built a new high school during that time period as well. And then, of course, finishing my first year here in Wayne County. In many ways, it's a lot like coming home. Have some distant family here. My uncle, his family's from Goldsboro, and of course my family, larger part of my family originally in the Greenville area. So again, it's a lot like coming back home.
So where are you from originally?
Originally grew up in Ayden, lived in Ayden most of my life, Ayden, Greenville area. Was born and raised there. Still have family from both maternal and paternal sides of my family in the area. My grandparents still living in Ayden in their 90s, and just real proud of our work that our family's done in the community, and look forward to doing the same here. In fact, through government service, I gave back 6 years being on the Board of Education in Pitt County and served as their chairman. Actually hired their superintendent that's currently retiring this year, Ethan Linker in Pitt County.
That's interesting.
Yes.
You were on the Board of Education as an elected leader, and now you are a superintendent. Were you what was your role then at the time?
So I was an assistant superintendent in Edgecombe County.
In one county.
Had always lived in Greenville.
I see, elected leader in the other.
And elected leader in Pitt
that
County.
had to be wild.
Yes, it was. A full day job, and then get home and your answering machine, when those things used to exist, was full in the evenings when you get home in terms of calls to return and so on. So
you saw both sides of the table then.
Both sides. And I always like to have a perspective of what it's like to walk or work in someone else's shoes. And I think that's carried me well throughout my career, from being a teacher, working at all 3 grade spans, and also being a Board of Education member.
So you are married. Let's talk about your family a little bit.
So my wife, Courtney, is a speech language pathologist by trade.
Now, and I knew her as Courtney Ledbetter.
Right.
Because
you both graduated from Triton.
We went to Triton High School. Yep. And her dad, Mike, was actually our pastor at my church that I grew up in for a little while.
It's a small world.
It is a small world. So I knew her from way back and knew her at Triton. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Courtney.
We've been married 20 years this year, as a matter of fact. We have 2 boys. Jackson will be a freshman at East Carolina, intending to pursue a degree to become a pediatrician.
Oh, wow.
And our youngest son, Davis, will be a freshman at CB Aycock this year. Okay. As I think most people in the community know, this has been a tough year. My wife stayed back in Whiteville and worked and still work with the school system there, and so that my son Jackson could graduate from Whiteville High School. They had been, all of us would have been in Whiteville 5 years this year, and so he wanted to stay and finish out his high school senior year with his friends, and we wanted that for him. And so I came on to Pikeville with our youngest son Davis, and he went to his 8th grade year at Norwayne, made great friends, great community, and so now we're all happy to be back together again.
That's good. So everybody's here now.
Everybody's here.
And Courtney, what is she's a speech pathologist, you say?
She's a speech pathologist. In fact, she was just recently hired. She'll be serving Fremont, Norwayne, possibly CB Aycock in the northern part of the attendance area.
Oh, nice. So I currently live right across the street from the old Fremont school.
Okay, yeah.
And I can look out my door to the right and I can see the beautiful new Fremont Elementary.
Yes.
Which will be very shortly coming into use. What a beautiful job. Daniels and Daniels did that, I believe.
They did.
Construction. And
they have been a real pleasure to work with.
Man, that is a beautiful facility. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Well, very good. So, okay, your family's here, everybody's here. What is a superintendent? Like, explain that job for the layperson. Assume I'm stupid, which would be a fairly good assumption. But what is a superintendent?
So a superintendent of a school system is statutorily in charge of all aspects of operations of a school system. And I don't mean to necessarily use that word operations because we do have an assistant superintendent of operations, but in terms of the academic instruction, in terms of meal service, in terms of construction, maintenance, transportation, legal side, although we have certainly a very competent attorney. I am in charge of the supervision of all of those various different aspects, coordination of those different aspects, work within the community, which I take very seriously and enjoy that aspect of maintaining what I call a robust relationship with the community, because getting buy-in from your stakeholders and collaborating with them to work to craft a vision for what a great school system can be is something that I thoroughly enjoy, and that's been a great part of this aspect of the job. But more so to the point of a superintendent, supervision of the principals in the buildings, and those various aspects that we've talked about are all encompassing for the position.
Sport Durst Volkswagen Mazda of Goldsboro is proud to support Wayne County Chamber of Commerce. Family owned and operated, Sport Durst knows the importance of keeping local money local and supporting the community. We put our customers first with the area's best pricing, best trade-in value, and best selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Come experience the Sport Durst difference, where customers and community come first.
So what motivated you to, maybe to be the superintendent here? Like why Wayne County? Why make that move? Why make what was the thing that spurred that on?
So again, knowledge of the community. I remember coming here a lot during the summers, and whether it was for Wings Over Wayne or eating at Wilbur's, McCall's, visiting with family and so on, friends. And again, getting back closer to home was very important. And
let's go back to barbecue just a second. So,
you're not going to hang me on this question.
Come on now, listen. You just said that you were from Aden, so the skylight's down there.
Okay.
So
Here we go.
I need to know what the best. Talk to me. What's the best one?
I grew up eating Bums in downtown Aden, and Pete Jones or the Skylight Inn around the corner there. I like skin in my barbecue,
Okay.
So I will have to defer to. I know Larry Dennis over at Bums is probably going to kill me, but Skylight Inn is probably just slightly ahead of
edge.
Bums.
Okay,
but Bums has got a better breakfast.
Okay.
The breakfast.
Well, and Pete Jones doesn't do anything.
They don't do anything
except
other than just barbecue slaw, flat cornbread.
Yeah, that's good. But the barbecue here is edible. You know what I mean?
Barbecue
it's not
here
like
is wonderful.
Yeah, that's right. Well, praise God. That's good. I thought that was important to know. All right, but so you see this opportunity and you decide that Wayne County is a place that you'd like to maybe pursue. And what was compelling maybe beyond the location?
So I enjoy fixing things.
Okay.
That is something that I really enjoy doing, is analyzing, getting systems aligned, and working on strategic planning, which we've done a lot of in this year to put together a strategic plan, creating a new mission and vision for the school system. But that's really where I find my true enjoyment in my work is fixing problems. And there has been no shortage of problems.
Well, can I ask you about that? Because I think that's, first of all, thank you for being honest.
Sure.
I think that's a critical awareness. Like when you, as an outsider looking in, I mean, obviously it would have been different then than now, but, or maybe not, I don't know. But what did you see as the challenges, or maybe even today? Like what are the challenges as someone in your role looks at and says, oh yeah, that's a difficult situation, or that's a challenge that has to be overcome. What comes to your mind, or what did you see from a distance?
So what I knew about the system is that they had a good number of superintendents in a fairly short period of time. They had gone through a number of different interims over time. Normally, as a school superintendent, that is a red flag as far as issues. I found that not necessarily to be as glaring of an issue once I took the position. Wayne County Public Schools was in many ways a lot like, and I speak a lot in metaphors, so forgive me if that is a turnoff for a lot of folks, but I found it to be like a vintage race car that was maybe kind of like sitting up on blocks and needed to have a new set of tires put on it, carburetor blown out, and the engine tuned. We've done that this year, and our race car is on the track, and it's merging on to the interstate highway at a very high rate of speed. And I think in terms of being competitive in our region, and I'll get more into that. I hope you have time for us to talk about that in terms of our academic performance. But I found that to be an issue that was concerning. A few weeks after taking the position, we received a letter from the state, formal notification to us that the district had become a low-performing school district based off of the prior year's performance. That, after taking some Maalox and chewing on some Rolaids, sent me into orbit as far as we had to craft a plan quick. It's a lot like a doctor evaluating a patient, and all of a sudden the patient goes into cardiac arrest. You've got to do some heart massage pretty quick to get that patient back. And we did that this year through what I call our non-negotiables of what every school in the district will do. It's a robust prescription for essentially bringing a school or school system back. It's a tried and true system. I've used it in Edgecombe County, used it somewhat in Whiteville, and it has worked. I believe, will be handily out of low-performing district status. District status is when greater than 50% of a district's schools are low-performing. We only missed it by one school. So we didn't have a high bar per se to move out of low-performing status. But what I found from visiting every one of our campuses, a large number of our classrooms and observing teachers, we've got talent. The talent is not a problem for us in terms of the high-quality teachers we have in our classrooms. Some of the best I've ever seen in my profession. Great principals. It's just a matter of everyone merging together into a central concept.
Kind of running in the same direction.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Aligning the arrows, as I like to say. Mm-hmm. But that was a particular problem. I was also told in the community, again, I spoke with every organization that would have me, different from all aspects of the community, that the problem would be from the county commissioners. And I kind of chuckled and I said, I heard the same thing when I was in Columbus County. They said, Mark, you'll be in one corner, and I've used this analogy a lot. Your Board of Education and county commissioners in another corner, and at some point somebody will ring a bell and you guys will come to the center of the boxing match and you guys will duke it out. I said, look, I've been through this before. I'm proud to say after my 4 years in Whiteville, we handily increased school funding for the benefit of our schools and the benefit of our communities. I've got my education. It's about our kids. And we dramatically improved our facilities. We put roofs on all of our buildings. We repaved parking lots. We built a new school. We increased the teaching supplement. All of those things we were able to do. I was one of 8 school districts in North Carolina that started the school year, my last year in Whiteville, with no vacancies. No teacher vacancies, no administrative vacancies, no bus driver vacancies, because of the working conditions and because of increasing teacher supplement and employee supplements, that we were able to pay our employees more to attract the best and brightest talent. Our community, I've heard this said 2 different ways. Our community can only be as good as our schools, but our schools can only be as good as our community. So both of those work hand in hand together. And if you typically see communities with good or great schools, you see it as an economic development tool. And I wake up every day with the thought on my mind of how can our schools become better so we can use them as a tool for economic development. Because business and industry looking to locate to an area, one of the first things they crack open the paper and look at is what do the schools look like in the area. So we're running really hard to get our schools in a great place.
Yeah, and the base looks at that, of course, too. They
do.
We hear that a lot, from in terms of the quality of life, discussion. Education is one of, the 3 pillars, basically, that we always, is always part of the discussion, and we hear it from a lot of spouses. We hear it from a lot of the airmen, related to, hey, one of the first things that happens is they Google those school grades.
That's right.
And as you pointed out, I mean, for several years, that's been a challenge here. And I don't know. I don't understand all the underperforming terms and all this, that, and the other. But I just think that there had been this general frustration that, like, it just seemed like we couldn't get right. We couldn't get our footing, or we couldn't get, and maybe it was because there were so many different voices trying to say something new or different every so many couple years or whatever. I don't know. But I think you're right that it was not a talent problem. It wasn't. It's just maybe it was a leadership problem. I don't know. I don't have the solution to that. But it is definitely a quality of life concern for not just economic developers, but the base, everybody, and the base is longevity. So
absolutely,
it just always comes up. So I know that those are the kinds of things that are on your mind, drive your work every single day, right?
Every day. And I will say the teacher shortage is becoming critical. We had to contract with a company, for example, where we were not even able to hire outside workers from outside the United States to come in on visas to fill positions. We had to hire digital teachers that taught students by virtue of coming through on a television screen with a paraprofessional in the room, of course, for supervision, which was incredibly frustrating. Is
that because of COVID? Like, where did that start to really take a turn? Because I've heard that a lot, and I see it, and I see it not just in education, in other places. You listen to employers; they talk about this a lot too. But
sure.
The teacher shortage part, what was the biggest, what's the source of that? Do you know?
So I'll give you a couple of examples. One is a glaring example that I'll use. People going into the teaching profession has for years been dwindling. And, it's not helpful that we have this kind of back and forth, and I'm going to say it, in the legislature, in terms of arguing about, what teachers need to do, what our teachers are teaching in the classrooms. Our teachers in North Carolina follow what's called literally the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. And it is very prescriptive in terms of what's taught. So this misconception out there that schools are, putting misinformation in the students' heads and minds, it's becoming frustrating to people, and they just rather not get caught up in this political issue, this politicization of schools. And you're seeing people not want to go into the profession. East Carolina, for example, a few years back, graduated 2 math teachers. And you think about the 30-plus counties that East Carolina serves, and just with retirements alone, you're dealing with hundreds that would be needed. And so when you look at those numbers, it is not sustainable. And then, too, when you look at the rapid inflation that took place after COVID, salaries jumping at Chick-fil-A in terms of what they're paying individuals, Walmart, just Amazon, delivery truck drivers. When you divide out the salary of a starting teacher in North Carolina right now, which is right at $40,000, 10 months, $4,000 a month, when you divide that out, there's not a lot of difference in what a teacher would make with 4 years of university degree, credentialed degree, and working as an Amazon delivery truck driver and not have to deal with maybe in some cases students that are not as always easy to work with and so on and so forth. And of course, increasing demands that are placed on them. So that's led us to shortages. I've also advocated for an increase in local funding, which we did not get this year from our county government, for a supplement increase. I just lost one of my best principals to go work in Johnston County, and they got a $30,000 pay increase just off of what local government was able to supplement them in their position and the difference between what Wayne County pays. And so it is a challenge. It is a real challenge. And when I'm out, as I say, trying to juice the orange as hard as I can and get people to, as I've told our county commissioners and I've told the community, they deserve a return on investment for the money that they invest in tax dollars for the community. We should provide. I'm a big believer. Public schools should provide a return on the investment from state dollars that are provided, federal dollars, and local dollars. That's our obligation to maximize use of resources. But in order to be able to juice that orange, we've got to have more investment. I think it was one of the most glaring issues I've seen here is the lack of the low rating for Wayne County of per pupil expenditure as compared to all 100 counties in North Carolina. And when you consider, and I know Wayne is a high poverty county, but when you rate it based on the taxation effort and the amount of property that is taxable, the amount of return to the school system from local appropriations is just not sustainable for what our needs are for our campus improvement, our capital facility improvement. There's got to be greater effort as we move forward.
So that's a lot. That's a mouthful right there. So you've been on the job for what, a year? Very recently, 1 year anniversary?
1 year.
Man, that's been a
1 year and 7 days.
That's a whirlwind.
It has been.
So let's talk about the wins. Let's talk about some of the things that you look at and you say, gosh, I'm so proud of this. What are some of those things that stand out?
So I think what we've seen so far this year is one tremendous academic improvement. I like to look at data. I look at statistics. I look at our numbers. And where we ranked last year out of what's called the Southeast region, which is roughly 15 school districts, I believe we have the potential this year. I don't know what other districts have done, so being able to rank order where we are, I believe we will surpass at least 2 counties in the area in terms of our academic performance. So that's a vast improvement in a very, very short period of time.
What do you think the reason for that is? Is it just that alignment that you talked about, or like what are some of the key reasons you think that there's been that kind of pace of improvement? So sure.
One of my key things that I like to focus on, what I look for in a building, is discipline, student discipline. My grandparents always said, and I'm very, very close with my grandparents, not every child intellectually has the ability to come to school and make an A or a B. But every child can come to school and be behaved and be respectful of adults. Now that coin is converse. I expect teachers and staff to be respectful of students. No student is going to be mistreated and there not be consequences. But the same is true of students. Students will not be disrespectful, disruptive, because we have a mission. And what we're going to do is we're going to maximize every minute of every day teaching students so that they can have opportunities later in life. That's about what education's about. And so by putting that together in what we do, that's been a very successful recipe for me over time. And that's been a big part of what we've done this year. And I've heard from the community. The community's very satisfied from individuals I've heard from about what they see in the changes. I'm also very satisfied to see our request for enrollment from privates, parochial Christian schools, charters, homeschool parents are at some of our highest numbers that we've seen in years from people that are wanting to come back to Wayne County Public Schools. I've said since I've been here, I want this to be a renaissance time period for our school system, and that, it's very much in vogue right now for there to be downtown revitalization and that nostalgia. Public schools raised me. Public schools raised you. Public schools have raised some of our greatest generations of people. Nobody does it better than traditional public schools. With the resources that we have, athletic programs, clubs, organizations, all of the different subject areas that we're able to teach in schools, nobody does it better. And the more parents that can engage with us in that work with their children, the better off it'll be for this entire community. I've always said people have more options today than they've ever had in terms of where they can send or educate their children. We want to be the choice for parents in our community to educate their children. Won't you come along with us and help us solve our problems together rather than basically run and go somewhere else to what in many cases is the same set of problems? Let's all work together and fix these problems together.
Any surprises? Like, or maybe not say any surprises. I'm sure there were surprises, but what were the things that, like, wow, that really wasn't expecting that?
I've been around the block more than a few times. So really there's not much in today's world that surprises me. But again, I think it's continuing to chip away at building relationships and true relationships. I've always said many times, nothing better that I enjoy than just sitting down and just having a conversation in person.
Right.
I'm not a big tech person.
Yeah.
I enjoy face-to-face conversations, telephone call. I do text, but it is, to me, much more enjoyable just to sit down and in person and have a conversation with somebody. Put all the cards on the table, dancing around the bush about different things. I don't have time for that. So I'm very blunt.
Just get to it.
So just get to it. And that's very enjoyable.
That's good. So what? So not a whole lot of surprises is what I'm hearing you say, because you've kind of seen
not a lot of surprises.
Not a lot of surprises. Okay, well, good. So how many employees? How many people are employed by Wayne County Public Schools?
I could certainly give you a specific count in certain areas.
Roughly,
I think it's just safe to say, in terms of bus drivers, school nutrition staff, teacher corps, principals, maintenance, facility staff, operations, we're in the thousands of employees.
So how do you, a typical day, like how do you stay connected with these people? I mean, they all technically work for you.
Yes.
So, that is a lot of layers of stuff and people, and it's across an entire geographic county.
Sure.
Because what we have, how many schools?
Well, we're condensing some schools, but right around 32 to 33.
So how do you stay connected?
So for me, I like to be in our schools. I try to daily be in a particular school within our district, sometimes multiple schools. One of the things that I first found when I came here to Wayne County, and again, this is not an indictment of any of my predecessors. We went through a number of interims, but there were more than a few principals that said, I've been in place at my school for 6, 7, 8, 9 years and never had once seen a superintendent come into their building. And I like to inspect what I expect. I like to be in classrooms to listen to teachers, to see, what teachers will share with me about what their concerns are. I've said many times, I like to make decisions with 1 foot in the classroom, 1 foot in the hallway, so I know what's going on so that I'm informed about what the needs are of our employees in our school district. So that's important to me, not just some person that sits in an office. It would drive me crazy to sit in an office all day. I like to be out and about in our schools.
Nice. Well, that's a lot of schools. That's a lot of places. That's a lot of people. And I think that people also tend to forget that the school system is one of the most significant, if not the most significant, it will always be competitive for the most significant employer in a region, in a county.
Absolutely.
And so there's a lot of people's livelihoods that are tied up in the public school system, one way or another. So it is definitely its own economic engine.
Sure.
And its own economic impact. So I want you to talk a little bit about, you said that there's been this growth and this performance. Tell us a little bit more, if you can, about what that means and what that's going to look like in these. Because don't we have some results coming up or coming out, or I don't know if they've already come out, but what are we looking at here?
So we have some early indicators.
Okay.
We can tell what the numbers are as far as what students did on their actual test performance.
Okay.
The unknown part is growth. And in North Carolina, it's this 80-20. 80% is based off of what students did on the test that they took. That 20% piece is based off of growth, how much the student grew from one year to another. And that's analyzed through SAS in Raleigh. They do their data analytics. That piece is unknown, so we can't necessarily give a definitive answer on that. Our test data is embargoed, which means we know what the student performance is. We have no idea what the growth piece is. But what I do know early on, based off of our student test scores that they achieved, is that we've had a banner year. And I am very proud of that because that's good for our community. Yeah. It's good for our teachers. Our school system started the year under a cloud with being labeled by the state as a low-performing district. Nobody likes to be told, you're performing badly or you're not performing up to par or where you need to be. And so I think by us being able to dismiss this and further put our foot on the accelerator this year, because now becomes the second part of where do we make our mark in this region? Are we going to be satisfied that we're just not a low-performing school district? No. We're setting our sights now on how can we get better every single year. Now it's going to be a goal to every year take off at least one school from low-performing status and continue that march forward with improving academically the school system. The goal here is to be the best in the East, and there's no reason why we can't be.
And don't you think, and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. I think that just genuinely this would be logical, but don't you think that improvement in performance is likely to lead to improvement in funding? I mean, over time, don't you think the narrative at some level benefits or compels elected leaders to sort of hear those requests differently? And the reason I say, because I think, what I hear from time to time, and maybe I've heard people say this in the community, is why would you give more money? Why would you give more money when it's performing worse after having more money than it had 10 years ago or 20 years ago? It's performing worse. So there are people who make the argument, and that's not a totally unreasonable argument.
No, it's not.
Why would we spend more money if there's not better performance? Seems like if there's better performance, though, perhaps that conversation changes.
Sure.
Because that would be the first, I would think, and I've not lived here for 10 years or so, 2010, I don't know what's this year, 14 years.
14 years.
Good gracious, I'm getting old. But
your math education came from Harnett County.
Yeah, that's right. I was Harnett County. So wherever they shout out to, making them proud. But it seems like this is going to be what it sounds like one of the first good news deliverables.
Yes.
In terms of performance that people could point to and say, oh my gosh, it almost feels like maybe a corner is turned, and that seems investable,
yes.
If that makes sense.
Right.
What would you say to that?
Well, good news certainly breeds, good actions.
Right.
I'm a believer too in, certainly I do believe, I've said before, I've told our staff this, in all of the different schools that I've been in, stood before staff, the community has to have a return on investment. We're not just some black hole where people just keep throwing money in. We're not a money pit. We've got to do better with delivering results. But there's also a minimum floor that we have to have for basic functions. Right. I'll give you an example of that. Over the past, at least, I think now we're close to 2 decades, our funding has stayed stagnant with $2 million for capital improvement, for keeping our buildings and grounds up. That's all we get from local. In North Carolina, the state law is buildings are maintained by county. We get $2 million to maintain 30 plus, 35, 36 when you count maintenance, staff, buildings, central services buildings. $2 million. This year alone, we're going to spend $1.1 million on 2 roofs to be replaced. That leaves $900,000 left for replacement of light bulbs, paint, carpet, glass for windows, door locks that fall apart, floor joist replacements in some areas. Campus is being mowed, gasoline, mowers, you name it. That's nothing. That's why our parking lots are falling apart. We had one campus, Southern Wayne High School, for example, when I first got here. Grass was over 2 feet high in the parking lot. We had to mow the parking lot. And so, one of the first impressions people get that are looking at reinvesting with their children in our school systems is, how do the campuses look? And so we've got to do better just with our curb appeal aspects for our campuses. But you're so right. I'm a taxpayer. You're a taxpayer. None of us wants to pay more taxes. But there's a point that you get what you pay for. And so we've got to have more investment in our schools.
Like a point of diminishing return, I guess, is what I hear you saying. Is
absolutely.
If you don't, reach a certain threshold, you're gonna start to see a diminishing of results.
Certainly.
Okay. So your goals for this year are coming up. You're making this progress. You've got a strategic plan in place. Seems like there's real momentum among your staff and your teams. And there are these, I wish we could talk for a long time, because I really wish people did know some of these really cool stories that are happening in some of these schools all around the county, to try to prepare kids, particularly the non-4-year path kids. But we don't have the time to get into that. But your goals, as this thing seems to be moving in that direction, when you look out over the next year, what do you see? What is your team looking for? What are you trying to deliver?
So we want to continue to build on this momentum that we have. I really think this is going to be a real inflection point for our community, of where we get a lot of folks that are already running behind us, running beside us, some running out in front of us, that are really jumping on the Wayne County Public Schools bandwagon and are helping us to get better. We're all ears. We want to listen to what the needs of the community are for our school system, because it is the community school system. But I think for continuing the academic growth, again, as I've said, picking off at least one low-performing school that we have and getting better, continuing to put opportunities in our schools for programming that we offer for our students. I'm very excited about what the 4-H is doing with robotics. Anything that we can do STEM-based, artificial intelligence, as you know, is rapidly expanding and growing. The more science and technology fields we can offer for our students, it's just endless. Not every student, nor should they, I will say, go to or attend a 4-year college. Not every student should go to or attend a 2-year community college. Not every student is cut out to go into the military. Every student, however, should have a key on their key ring that's able to unlock doors of choices for what they want to do later on in life that is of their own choice. So I think it's incumbent on us to give kids opportunities, to create well-rounded citizens that have an educational basis of knowledge that they can pursue any choice of activity that they want to later on as a career function.
Yeah, and I would say another huge, I guess, advantage and asset in this county and community is the relationship with our secondary institutions. So like Wayne Community College is, oh my gosh,
one of the best that I've ever worked with. It's just, and again, they have been so welcoming to me since I've been here. We've signed new agreements together that have been talked about for years. We have those in place in terms of our different apprenticeship opportunities that we have. Relationships with University of Mount Olive has been awesome.
And University of Mount Olive is, you could see them too. They've been going through a little bit of a renaissance. I mean, you can see they're moving in such a positive direction, and they've always been a good institution. At least I'd like to think so. I was a graduate, but anyways, if you're from Wayne County, you've got to be proud of seeing these things really succeed and really start to have good news to share. And I think all of those institutions, including the Wayne County Public Schools, has a much better story to tell.
Well, and you're so right. You talk about UMO, you talk about Wayne Community College. Those have been two real jewels in the crown of Wayne County. Wayne County Public Schools now is in a position where we're the third jewel, and we're going to give this community something to be really proud of. And the community can take solace in the fact that your public schools are back, and we're going to make a name for ourselves in this region.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I mean, we'd love to hear those words. We're going to welcome some new teachers here. A new school year is about to start here in a little while. What would you say to brand new teacher coming into Wayne County? What's the pitch? What would you say to them if they were listening right now?
It's an exciting time. Our existing teachers, our community, I think, are excited about what we're doing. The support here from business and industry, the chamber, for what we do for our teachers is second to none in what I've seen in communities. And so I think it's a great place to be. It's a great place to begin a career and to retire. And for what we're doing with our school system, if I were a beginning teacher, there's no place I'd rather be than right here in Wayne County.
Yeah, that's you getting me fired up, man. Come on. And you can eat barbecue.
I mean, what better thing to do here, right?
You know, and that's what I say. Anyway. As you can tell from this body, me and barbecue get along real well.
I tell you, that's a good thing.
Real well. So we'll finish with just, these days, what wakes you up? What motivates you? What gets you really, really excited?
Continuous improvement. Every day I see an opportunity to fix something, to make something better. Because again, it's about this community. And I truly believe that. That's at the heart of what I do. Making it a better way for the next generation. I had a great education. I had teachers that were all in, community that was all in for education, and we're doing that here, and we're going to have good results. I am so proud of what our teachers were able to accomplish this year. The entire team, everyone. It takes us all to make this a successful event in terms of educating a child. The thing I ask is for parents. Parents have got to be parents. And sometimes that means telling your child no. And it means working with your child when they get home, extend the learning environment. Teachers in schools can't do the work in 7-8 hours a day. It takes following up on that at home, asking your child. I still ask my children today, what'd you learn in school today? What was fun? What was interesting? What was exciting to you?
I'm usually disappointed by that. My middle boy, I'll ask him what he did in a given day of school. How was school today? What'd you do? I don't remember. And I'm like, that is the best you got? He said, that's the best I got.
But it's again, you're connecting with your children.
That's
and,
right.
Parents don't get to veg out. I mean, you've got to be parents. Again, I've got one getting ready to go off to college. Now the time is more crucial than ever in terms of staying engaged and connected with your children. So my message in that is that, schools, public schools, we can't do it all.
Right.
Society's changing. I like to be an optimist, but I do think in some ways it's not changing for the better. We can certainly pray about that. Yeah. But I do think, it does take us all to create the type of public school system that we all want. And, but again, I'm very excited about what I've seen so far.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do every day and for your staff. And, I know that the critics are usually higher than sometimes the non-critics, but it does feel like there's progress and there's momentum. And we hope that continues, and we believe in what you all are doing, and as a community, we hope to be able to be helpful to that. So thank you so much for what you do and your team, and thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.